Hey guys, how's it going? This is going to be one of my first YouTube videos on how to, with the 5.3 LM7 engine in a 3rd gen Firebird. So if you look right here, obviously there is the 5.3. I've done some simple stupid stuff to it. I've got a throttle body spacer right there to kind of give it a little bit more torque. I had to get a cable, an extra long cable, and kind of do this jimmy rig stuff right here to make the cable fit onto the throttle body, and it goes down up into the all the way to the pedal, etc., etc. I've got a couple of grounds. One ground, I like to use these big straps because they carry a lot better. They carry voltage. I got this big, I think it's a 00 gauge. It's been a while since I've looked at it, but coming over to here, obviously you got to use an Optimum battery because you can just crank forever, and the battery won't die. And even if it does die, you can come back about a year later and just put a trickle charge on it, and the battery will be good again. So everybody's saying that when you run an LS engine that you're supposed to get an LS radiator, and if you look right here, this is actually a 3rd gen radiator, and the water outlet goes to the other side. And on LS engines, you're supposed to have the water pump inlets and outlets on both sides of the radiator for whatever cooling reasons they had. But I've been doing it like this, and it's been running fine. But that might be also in part due to these, how do you say it, Durali? I think it's Durali. Might be Durail, I can't remember. But these are 4,000 CFM fans. Each fan is 2,000 CFM. And if you follow this harness down here, kind of got it jerry-rigged for the moment. I had it set up really nice, but my dual fan controller took a crap on me, and I kind of screwed myself. So I had to cut it out. I had to warranty it out, send it back over to Pet Boys. They gave me another one, so it's working again. But it's really hard to fit an LM7 engine into a 3rd gen Firebird with the stock intake on it. That stock intake is effing huge. I'm gonna close the hood here really quick for you so you can see. Move all this crap out of the way. I like to leave an organized mess in my garage. And by organized mess, I mean disorganized. Alright, so if you look right here, you can definitely see the engine sticks up way past. So, hey, no problem. Just cut a big fucking hole in it. Nobody cares. I'll post a couple of pics of what I'm doing with this hood, but I'm slowly shaping some metal. I got the other section out. You can see it. It's right behind those turbos right there. But I've been shaping that, rounding the edges on it, make my own cowl hood, because nobody makes a cowl hood in fiberglass unless it's a bolt-on hood that'll actually fit this thing. So, got a few other goodies. When you run the stock throttle body, it's better if you can afford it to get a drive-by-wire instead of a drive-by cable, and I'll explain why. Biggest reason why you should get a drive-by-wire instead of a drive-by cable is because when you're looking right here, you actually will end up having to get one of these bad boys. This is from TCI, and it's for the torque or the transmission kickdown cable or the TV cable for a 700R4, because I wanted to retain my 700R4 because I had it built to 700 horsepower, supposedly. And they said, oh yeah, all day it'll handle 700 horsepower, but we're going to find out here in a little bit. But this is an extended TV cable instead of your stock 700 R4 cable. You can see it doesn't quite freaking reach. I added on this little thing, made it out of a coat hanger, but it didn't really work that well, so I wouldn't advise doing that. So what I'm going to have to do is go with this TCI cable. It can extend up to 3 feet, which will be good because the stock one I think is like 2.5 feet at the most. So it'll come all the way up here and it'll mount back in this bracket right here, and then I'll run it down to this pinhole right here, so when under acceleration it actually pulls the cable properly like it's supposed to. So all of the truck accessories fit really well in here. The only thing that I have a qualm with is the water pump. The outlet on it, it sticks up kind of at a 45-degree angle instead of out at a 90-degree angle. If it came out at a 90-degree angle, I wouldn't have any issues clearing my hood right here. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'll just get some tubing and kind of like exhaust tubing. I believe this is 33 millimeters. I'll get some 33 millimeter tubing, have it bent to go and follow along the line of the radiator. But that's before the turbo. I've got a couple of turbos here. I don't know which one or if I'm going to use both yet. But I actually will have to cut some space out for the radiator, shift the radiator over a little bit this way, probably a few inches. And that way I'll have a little bit of room to run my exhaust for the tubing, so I can put my tubing or hook my tubing together, you know, each exhaust manifold. Probably have my turbo sitting right up under there. So going on with more of the project here, I have got a couple of turbos. Ignore the mess. Messes don't matter unless you never clean it up, and I never do. So anyways, I've got a Ford Power Stroke turbo here for the 7.3 liter diesel. It's a pretty big freaking turbo. Stock, they say they're rated to 500 horsepower, but supposedly there's a housing upgrade and a compressor turbo, or a compressor wheel upgrade that you can do, and that should give you upwards of 900 to 1,000 horsepower if you really wanted to use that much horsepower, which I'm definitely not going to do. Transmission is only limited to 700 horsepower, and kind of want to stay a little bit under that so I can have a little bit of some longevity to the car. But this turbo is a Garrett GT 2871R. These are good for 450 horsepower with the stock housing and the stock compressor wheel. I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to throw this turbo on as well with this turbo, or if I'm just going to run this singular turbo. I believe it's a 1.0 AR, which is a decent size, pretty decent. Then I've got over here a teal wastegate / blow-off valve. You can use it as either one that you want to, but these things are pretty badass. And then to go along with that, to complement that stuff, over here I have some 80-pound injectors. I got these off of eBay. I don't know how well they're going to work yet. But these are specifically for the LM7 motors. Don't know how well you can see that because it seems to be a little bit fuzzy. But this is specifically for the LM7. Well, the truck intake manifold, I should say. And you can see somebody was saying that you cannot decap these because they have a weird cap. They were thinking, yeah, you decap these and you can run 160 cc's. I don't think that's how these ones will work. But if it's possible, I might send them out to have them flowed. and tested, etc., see how much they do actually flow. They claim they flow 830 cc's at 43.5 psi, or whatever the standard is for that. So eventually I will actually send these injectors off to have them flowed. I'm flow tested, and then I'll see if there are any upgrades that I could do to those injectors to make them flow even more. But these are fairly cheap. You get 8 of them for, what is it? I paid $240 for 8 of them, and they're 830 cc's, which is 80-pound injectors. Supposedly, if you up the fuel pressure in the system, they might flow a little bit more. I'm gonna try and shoot for 100 pounds or 1,000 cc's, whatever it is. But moving on from that now, I guess. I don't know if you noticed, but I was dumping the injector out onto this water-to-air intercooler. So getting a nice cold charge to your engine is a good idea. Even if you don't have a turbo on your car, if you used a water-to-air intercooler, you would be able to get a cooler than the atmospheric temperature charge going to your engine, and that's always good no matter what. So even if you're not running a turbo or a supercharger, you can throw a water-to-air intercooler on your car, and you'll probably pick up at least 20 horsepower if you hook the system up right. One of the ways that you can hook these up, and people don't really talk about a whole lot, but these are designed to work with their own radiator. And when it has its own radiator, it also has to have its own water pump. So there is a water pump that you can actually purchase off of eBay. It's from a VW. If you just Google VW electric water pump, they should pop right up. $55 is all it takes. And it's electric. You probably have to run your own wiring, your own water pump relay. I suggest running a relay always whenever it comes to water pumps or anything electrical, really. I like to add my own water pump or electrical system in it, just so that that relay protects the circuit, and it kind of keeps a lot of the heat out of the electrical system. It takes a lot of stress out. It allows you to run more amperage, allows you to run a little bit more voltage. So moving on from that, see, I think, this is a 5.3. I had it tuned. I had the computer tuned. My tuner tuned out the vats. There's no vats on this. It's a speed density tune now, so I no longer have to run a MAF. I've been running it like this for quite a while. It's actually really, really fun. These are stock, like 325 horsepower. I imagine I'm probably losing at least 100 horsepower to the wheels, but fuck it. Who cares? It's such a fun car. That 700 R4 really actually handles this engine very well. You can tell the transmission wants to take a little bit more because the shifts are just so smooth and firm. Well, not necessarily smooth. It'll jerk you quite a bit going from first to second, but it's firm. I mean, you don't hear any clanking. So it's a really good trans, but then again, without that TV cable being hooked up, you run the risk of blowing something up, because that TV cable is there to adjust the line pressures in the transmission. As you accelerate, it pulls on that cable. It tells the transmission to add more pressure to help lock it into gear. But I'm going to tell you about one of the downsides to running an LM7 engine with truck intake, or the truck pan. The intake, hey, fine, whatever, cut a hole in your hood, make the hole as big as you effing want. Who cares? The cop sees you going down the street and, hey, what are you doing with that hood? Well, I've got a hood, so whatever, I don't care. But if you go down here, you can, I don't know, shit, you probably can't see that. Here, let me turn on the flash. Kind of hard to tell, but the truck oil pan hangs down really, really, really low. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I've already had quite a few issues with hitting it on things, i.e. the ground. So it's actually leaking a lot of oil now. I repaired it and I welded on a skid plate, so to speak, but that skid plate bottomed out as well. And after so many hits, the skid plate just kind of moved up back into the oil pan and re-damaged that same spot that it was already damaged. Kind of hard to see, but I ordered an LS oil pan, or not necessarily LS oil pan, but I ordered the muscle car oil pan that's made for Camaro Firebird. Got it off of eBay for 218 bucks. This intercooler system I actually also got off of eBay. I think it was like 160, 170 bucks shipped. And you really can't beat that because it comes with the water air intercooler and it comes with all of the tubing and piping that you're going to need. Although it doesn't say that you're supposed to run a radiator or its own separate coolant reservoir tank, which you really should actually get. It'd be nice if it came in a kit with the water pump and everything and the hoses, so you could just mount it wherever the crap you want and everything was all together. For some reason, I don't know why, it's probably the stick up my butt. I didn't realize that you had to run a radiator with these things. They are, I mean, they're worth the price. I just didn't budget for it, so I'm an asshole. But anyways, if any of you guys have any questions about running a turbo 350 or a turbo 400 up against an LS engine, yeah, I could probably answer a lot of your questions. I'm a little bit more familiar with the 700 R4 setup though, as you know, that's what this engine has, is the 700 R4. It's a really great transmission. It's a 4-speed overdrive. From what I've been told, they really can't handle a lot of horsepower because the sun gear in them, the sun gear is really weak, and the clutch packs are really weak because you just can't fit enough clutch packs in them. But I went ahead and I took the chance because I really like that overdrive, and I had upgraded Kevlar clutches built into it, as well as supposedly it's a badass sun gear that's built into it, along with Corvette servos, etc., etc., etc. It's fully built transmission, and you can get them. This one was made by Bully Dog several years ago, and I just haven't had the chance to run it. It's been sitting in the car actually. It's got a 2400 stall converter, which probably might be a little bit low. I'm gonna see where my cam is, where I can get my cam to come alive once I install it. I'll be installing a turbo cam in here pretty soon. But yeah, like I said, I prefer the 700 R4 transmission. There's a couple of different output spline options that you can get with the 700 R4. One of them is, I believe, 28 spline, and the other one is 31 spline. I could be wrong on that. Don't sue me if I am. But supposedly the 31 spline is the stronger one. I'm probably saying that backwards. 26 spline, 28 spline, 31 spline. I don't really remember. The one with the higher spline count was obviously the stronger one, though. So that was the transmission I opted for. And then I did the vehicle speed sensor. That's actually something I'm still trying to figure out. I don't know if any of you out there have any idea of what to do with the vehicle speed sensor and how to hook it up to the 5.3 ECM or ECU. But if you do know how to hook it up, I would really appreciate it. There's a purple and yellow wire that come out from the speed sensor, and I haven't figured out how to hook that up into the ECU. My ECU is buried down in there. Just look for the spaghetti and you'll find it. But anyways, guys, I guess I'll go on a little bit about the car. This is a 92 Firebird Formula. It's missing some stuff. As you can see, I've had this car for many years. I've actually wrecked it a few times. I ordered these ground effects. They're on their way, actually. My fenders look like shit, but paint can be fixed. Got a brand new windshield. Got quite a few other things on the way. I left my headers in here and they rested on the seat for about a year and a half, and it left those stains. But other than that, this car actually only has 26,000 miles. But there is a B&M torque converter lockup control kit right there. I haven't actually got it to work yet. I don't know why. I might just have a faulty one. But that red switch there is to control my ignition for the new computer, for the 5.3 standalone computer. And it also starts it, but I do still have the key option just to unlock the steering wheel or lock the steering wheel, etc., etc. And it does turn on the gauges in there, which not all of them work because I don't have them all hooked up yet, but probably actually can't really see very well. But this is actually a very clean car. There's the other side for my cowl hood, but I was driving down the street and it looked really ghetto, so I tore it off, and I still look ghetto, but who cares. So this is my car. Send me your messages or ask me any questions, and I'll see if I can answer them, and hopefully you guys can answer my questions too. So my name is Steve Jones. This is my 92 Firebird. Thanks for watching.